that we had confirmed appointments with all of our representatives that we were able to contact, and none of them could meet with us. We met with their staffers, and without exception...
So you mean you're one of the people who came there to try and stop this steamrolling of the Soviet-style medical reform that Hillary Clinton has been trying to pass for years, that Obama's going to jam down our throats? And what happened? They wouldn't even meet with you?
Wouldn't meet with us. We met with their staffers. These are children. They're kids in their 20s who just parrot back these quotes about, well, the system is broken and we need overhaul and we need...
Yes, in other words, they're using useful idiots who learned how to have an orgasm and buy pointy shoes to do the bidding of the Axelrods, the Waxmans, and the Emmanuels. Is that correct?
That's my opinion, and I've got to...
Well, that's my opinion as well. We have a country run by very devious, dangerous communists, and their subalterns are amongst the most naive fools and knaves America has ever seen in high places. They may as well be skateboarding in the West Wing. This is the Savage Nation. I'll be right back. Be here or be nowhere.
Savage, the home of Michael Savage and the Savage Nation. Talk 910 KNEW and 910KNEW.com.
For the last hour and a half, I've been trying to warn America about this Soviet-era socialized medical system that is being ramrodded by a single-party system. You don't have to believe me. Just look at the facts. Taxes are going to go up. Obama is changing a campaign promise not to raise your taxes above a certain number, which is a complete falsehood. And his poll numbers are showing it. Not everyone is as asleep as you may think. Joining us now is America's premier pollster who owns a great polling company, Scott Rasmussen, who has the new polling data. And this will explain why Axelrod, why Emmanuel, why they're trying to jam these things through so fast. Because I believe that you're going to hear in the next few minutes that his numbers are dropping. Scott, welcome to the Savage Nation. Thanks for being with us again.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be back.
Well, Scott, let's start with the big one, health care reform. Have you polled that topic?
We have polled that topic so many times. We have all kinds of data on it. But what we know is a few basic things never change. Right now, the country is still divided on it. 46% are in favor of the legislation working its way through Congress. 49% are opposed. But those who have strong opinions are even more opposed to it. I should point out that this is before the House members came out with their plan yesterday and before the Senate committee passed a proposal today. But when we poll on health care, people like the idea of reform. Everybody thinks our system could be better, but at the same time, most Americans are comfortable with the coverage they have, and they are afraid of being forced to change. They are afraid that of a system that's going to raise their taxes. And what you end up with is this mix where people, if you talk about health care reform, people say, yes, we need it. When you come down to the realities of it, it's very difficult to push through.
What about the issue of Judge Sotomayor? Has that helped or hurt Obama's poll numbers?
That's actually had virtually no impact on the president's poll numbers. In fact, it's probably the reverse. Sotomayor gets a bounce from people who like Barack Obama, and that's still, a majority of Americans still say they approve at least somewhat of the job he's doing. Overall, what we find right now today, 90% of Americans expect that Sotomayor will be confirmed. Only 37% think she should be. 43% say she should not be confirmed. So a plurality is opposed to her confirmation.
Wow.
But the 20% who are undecided do have a favorable opinion, very strongly favorable opinion of Barack Obama, and so they're probably willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
So it's the knee-jerk voters who whatever he wants, they're for. But by and large, 43% of people polled oppose her?
That's correct.
That's a very high disapproval rating, is it not?
It's very high. Her numbers when she was first introduced were a little better than the Bush nominees. All nominees see their numbers go down during the process as we learn things we don't like about them. The big break with Sotomayor's number came when the Supreme Court reversed the decision on the New Haven firefighters case. I don't think it was so much the fact that the Supreme Court reversed her decision as it was the fact that it was the first time many people had really heard about that particular case. And the New Haven firefighters, are a sympathetic plaintiff in this whole process.
Interesting. Global warming, Mr. Rasmussen, have you polled that?
Yes, and again, from lots of different angles and directions, a plurality of Americans believe that global warming is not caused by human activity. It is caused by long-term planetary trends. While it is seen as somewhat of a concern by many people, there's a huge partisan divide. And, what we end up finding out is when the economy is tough, when things are going on that seem far more pressing, global warming moves way down the list very quickly in terms of priorities and desire to do anything about it. The other issue on this, and this is one that always amazes me, Al Gore is frequently trotted out as an authority. Only about 1 out of 4 Americans considers him an expert on global warming, and his overall ratings outside the Democratic Party are fairly weak, so he's not necessarily a good spokesperson for global warming advocates, and people who have a different view should be happy to see him out there every time.
Last week when you were on the show, you ran an interesting poll which showed that President Obama's approval numbers were dropping, his disapproval numbers were rising, and I believe last week it was -5 when they crossed each other. Is that more or less right last week?
That's correct. When I was on the show last week, his what we call the presidential approval index was -5. That's the difference between the number who strongly approve and strongly disapprove. And it slipped just a little bit further this week. 29% strongly approve, 36% strongly disapprove, so his index rating is down to a -7. Overall, 52%.
That's amazing. In 1 week, it went down 2 more points. This is after his whirlwind world tour?
The difference of 1 or 2 points is not terribly significant. When we talked last week, his numbers were in the process of falling. A day or two after you and I spoke, he was down to -8. He's been at that -7 or 8 level ever since, and it looks like he's stabilized there for the moment. And again, it's all tied to the economy.
Looking back on the Bush administration, in the first administration, the 2000 and 2004, do you have data going back there? I mean, it's apples and oranges in so many ways. The world has changed so dramatically, not only since 9/11, but since 2008. But where was Bush in a similar period in 2004, in that period?
Well, let's go back. In 2000, which was his first term, he was in similar territory to where Barack Obama is today. But the difference is he was coming up a little bit, and Obama's been slipping down. This is fairly normal for where a president you'd expect him to be at this point in his first term in office. The honeymoon is starting to end, and numbers are settling out. People still want to give him the benefit of the doubt. So there's nothing unusual about it, but the comparison just falls off the charts in the very near future, because after 9/11, President Bush's numbers skyrocketed. Now, if you want to go to election 2004, we track that all the time, every single day, and the president on election day ended up with a 51% approval. 51% of Americans thought the U.S. was winning the war on terror, and he got 51% of the vote. Foreign affairs were clearly the dominant policy following 9/11, and that's very unusual in American history.
Well, war definitely rallies people around a wartime leader. There's no question. That's why the war went on so long. The people who, in my opinion, I'm editorializing, which is what I do for a living, and you don't. You try to keep it as neutral as you can. What other issues, other than health reform, Sotomayor, global warming, have you polled that you think would be of interest to the folks listening today?
Well, I do want to throw out one more thing on the approval topic that I think is of interest, and that is President Bush and Barack Obama each placed a huge bet early in their terms in office. For Obama, it's on these economic and health care reform plans that he wants to revolutionize the U.S. economy. President Bush, it was with his mission into Iraq. And once those things are set in motion, the only thing that will change the results or that change the approval ratings are the performance of those plans. So George Bush, once he made the move into Iraq, was going to be measured by the perceived success of Iraq. And Barack Obama, no matter what else happens, will be measured by the perceived success of these economic efforts, and that's the thing to watch. Overall, we now find that Republicans are trusted more than Democrats on 8 key issues, including the economy. That's a stunning turnaround from a year ago. And in fact, the two parties are essentially even on the generic congressional ballot. What we're seeing is the economy is obviously the number one issue. 50% plus of Americans every day tell us, though, that their own personal finances are getting worse, and they see the economy getting worse. When we look a little further downstream,